can't thank you enough for your effort, your energy, your intensity, your compassion, your love that you guys displayed this year. It's inspirational to me. I'll never forget it for the rest of my life. Let's use this opportunity that we have, the good stuff and the bad stuff, as fuel going forward. We're going to be standing there really soon, guys, really soon.
Welcome into the 2018 Dallas Cowboys Year-End Special. I'm Lindsay Draper. We are going to cover it all for you today. The ups and the downs, the way this team rallied from 3-5 to winning the East, the missing pieces that there still are, and the ones that fell into place. I've got a great panel with me, but first, take a look at this refresher from your 2018 Dallas Cowboys.
The Cowboys and the Panthers are about to open the season against each other for the first time ever. Read option, keep for Newton up the middle. Runs left and is sacked and fumbles the ball. Time deep. There's a shot in the man. Pass in a crowd. Wow. Second interception of the day by Earl Thomas. Pressure now. Down he goes. Did Lawrence get his third?
I think he did.
Touchdown, Tennessee.
Yeah, the margin for error is small. When you're 3-5, you got to win every game, but it starts with next week, and that's all we're focused on now.
34, they'll let Zeke do it. Bounces out right to the 40. Hurdles a man at the 30. Throws it over the middle, intercepted by Vander Esch at the 35. It's Cooper running away. He broke the big play. Breeze back under pressure. The ball's intercepted. Jordan Lewis. Slant in the direction. Cooper caught it on the bounce. Like it or not, your Dallas Cowboys are NFC East champions. Outside right. Oh, he ran over a guy. 10, 5, diving to the 1. Gurley, a huge room up the middle. He's gone. Goff is going to run. He's got a first down. Wow. Frankly, I'm really looking forward to the next Cowboys season. And I think they're positioned to have a really entertaining team next year.
Tough ending. Guarantee from this season was that it was full of drama. And let me tell you, today's show may be full of drama. When I introduce this panel that I've got with me, they need no introduction. Bill Jones, Mike Irvin, and Nate Newton. It is going to be fun today, guys. Obviously, the story of the season was a turnaround. You guys agree?
Oh, sure. You know, Lindsay, you got Michael Irvin, you got the playmaker on the show, you got Nate on the show. It's bound to be drama for the next hour here.
Lindsay, way to handle that thing over there, too. Let's just start off with that. I mean, I remember Lindsay as a little girl, just seeing her now handle the way she handles TV. Just great job. Great
there was no 3-5 start to the open to the show.
No, it was not. She was handling
Lindsay,
it
like it was for the Cowboys. And who thought at 3-5 that the Cowboys would wind up where they did this season?
Yeah, and you know what, guys, I thought this was a great year of learning, you know, for a young team and probably some young people helping running the whole organization and understanding what it takes to really win a football game. We always talk about it, the balance of that offense, and balance is so important. When I mean balance, I don't talk about running the ball 50%, throwing the ball 50%. Nate, I'm talking about like we had where you're able to beat somebody with the run or beat somebody with the pass, and that came on later in the season. But we didn't have that early in the season.
No, we didn't, Mike, and what was so amazing about this team is the ownership. The management saw that, hey, you know what, we can't do this by committee. We tried to commit to this thing at the wide receiver,
right,
and we couldn't do it, so they made some moves, not only with the players, but in the coaching staff. And as this thing grew and took off, man, you see once again the confidence of Dak take over.
Yeah, and I glassed over, Nate. I'm glad you went right to the heart of it on that wide receiver thing. Because being a wide receiver, I didn't want to make it seem like I was making it about me in this moment, but it is about those wide receivers. And honestly, let's put some reality to it.
Right.
Because Dak averaged almost about 200 yards without Amari Cooper, when we were trying to do it by committee. And then he went to about 270 with Cooper. Zeke was at about 88. I love the number 88, but I don't want 88 for Zeke. You know, he was about 88 yards, and then 105 when Amari Cooper came. You need that dude that everybody's saying, oh, he is the dude. And really, the rest of the receiving corps, Michael Gallup and all of those guys, they stepped up and played after his arrival.
You know, and Amari Cooper thinks he can be the best wide receiver in football. well next season. We'll see about that. We'll discuss that a little bit later here on the show, and then we'll get into that defense a little bit too as we go forward. And can, Lindsay, the Cowboys avoid that roller coaster where it seems like they win the division one year, they don't the next year, up and down they go? Up
and down they go. To the tune of the 2-1-4, we will talk about Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott next up on the Year End Special.
The 2018 Dallas Cowboys Year-End Special, presented by Miller Lite, is brought to you by Dr. Pepper, the one you crave. Ford is the best in Texas. And by Miller Lite, the only beer of the Cowboys.
Welcome back. We're continuing here on the Year-End Special. I'm looking forward to this conversation. The future is now with Dak Prescott and Ezekiel Elliott. I get to spend all the time in the world at the Star with Bill and Nate during the week. So, Mike, I want your opinion. Why is the national media so back and forth on Dak Prescott? He's going to be the future quarterback for this franchise.
Yeah, and I think he's earned that right. I mean, you can say what you will, and he'll always have that national media on him, watching everything he does and talking about it every day because he is the Dallas Cowboys quarterback. That's just the reality of it. But I tell people all the time, I said, let's bottom line this and let's talk about what counts most. What are we here for? We're here to win football games.
It is.
That's it. We're here to win football games, and very few people have won more football games in their first 3 years in the NFL than Dak Prescott. So you can tell me about who threw for this and who did that. Talk to me about who wins football games. In 2 of his 3 years as the starting quarterback, he's had this team in the playoffs and would have had him in there the 3rd year had Zeke. We didn't give Zeke the time off. You know what I'm saying? He would have been in there all 3 years. So for me, it really isn't a question, and I don't understand why everybody else has questions.
You know, and Dak, 32-16 is regular season record.
Yes.
His first 3 years in the league. It's a .667 winning percentage. But Nate, what is it that Dak needs to happen with Dak to take it to another level, which is more postseason success?
Just continue to work. Let me say this right here. What keeps me locked in on Dak is this team. This team, as you go to players, wide receivers, linemen, defensive linemen, they're all talking about, hey, man, I'll follow this dude.
Yeah,
I'll get in the foxhole with him.
Right.
And at the end of the day, if you have him within 7 points, you know, and he's driving that ball to field, he will do whatever it takes to get the job done. I don't look at how he throw a ball early in the game or what. He's throwing off his back foot. 80% of the quarterbacks going to throw off their back foot. But what we need for people to understand about this cat is, at the end of the day, he's going to walk away with more wins than most people.
And when I'm working, I hear it. And, you know, we get on Kurt. we get on our guy, you know, Kurt, because he's so hard on quarterbacks. He's so hard on quarterbacks. And you know, he played great quarterbacks with the Rams. But the one thing he always says, he says, will you give me I'll take Dak over anybody for that last drive in a football game with the game within 6 points. And a lot of people try to measure it off what they saw early in the season, but Dak did not have the right crew, I believe, catching the footballs, and we try to judge him on that. Now what he needs to do is continue to work with the crew he has, the crew he got, Amari Cooper leading that crew, and Michael Gallup, who really came on late in the season. But where I want to see him go, guys, is a little more taking over the game from the standpoint of what you see the Aaron Rodgers do. Quick snaps, controlling the line of scrimmage, getting more offsides, seeing the whole field. If somebody's running off the field late, you snap that ball and let's throw it downfield. Let's get this easy stuff also and not always make it hard. That's another level. He has all the tools, shoulders down. We're talking about continue to improve shoulders up.
And your guy, Kurt Warner, you know, when he was 24 years old like Dak was, no one thought he could play in the NFL.
Nobody.
Well, he was sacking groceries.
That's
right. He was sacking groceries.
How about Zeke, though? What do you see out of Zeke this season over even the previous two
The maturity, man.
Yeah.
the maturity, because early in the season when he was getting less than 20 touches, right around 20 touches, people like, hey, man, we need to get a ball to Zeke more. We need to do this. Normally, a prima donna would buy into that. He did not buy into that media hype. He just bided his time, and when Amari got here and he saw how things opened up, then he took over. He made more smarter runs. I mean, all of his runs are hard because of the lack of offensive line play, but he made smarter runs when he could go outside. He got outside. When he didn't take the beating that a lot of people thought he did.
I love the kid, man. I really do. I see him on the sideline. Let's go. We'll run. With just the physicality in which he runs. I'm telling you right now, I believe I would take Ezekiel Elliott, if you ask me, over anybody in the NFL. Anybody in the NFL. That's how much I love the way he runs the football, the way he plays.
Let me ask you this question, Mike. You are heart and soul. Troy was our leader. You know, you made Troy our leader. Hey, wherever the quarterback do, whatever, you made us follow Troy. But who is that guy you feel? Is it Zeke or is it Dak? When you just say, hey, man, we got to get this done. You know, I used to go off not nice words.
Yeah, right. Well, and I do believe that's Dak. You know, and that honestly, I think Dak has an ability to communicate with everybody, you know, and you talked about how we capitulated, because that's, you know, and not that Troy's a great leader.
Yes,
he's a great leader, but he's right here. And a lot of us may be all, you know, so we had to all bring that in and say, listen, we're following the right here. That's just it, and that's the bottom line of it. But Dak is a great communicator. He has a great heart, and everybody, all those guys, they love being around him. You never hear anybody say one bad thing about him. So, you know, he is that guy. And I'm going to tell you, that's the gift. You rarely get that, where you got the team leader, the heart and soul of a team at the quarterback position. The New England Patriots have it in Tom Brady. Yes. They have it in Tom Brady, and you've seen what they've been able to accomplish. Because as much as we like to talk about the physicality of the game, it's about the will of a game, and it's about the men coming together and saying, hey, I promise you, I will get my job done today. I can make a promise one man to the other, that each man will play for the other, and that's exactly what Dak gets out of these
Pittsburgh Steelers speech. Well, break it up.
The other thing about it, when you're talking leadership, your leaders better be your hardest workers on the team.
That's right.
Back in the day, I remember as a reporter being at Valley Ranch in the off-season, and in 100-degree weather in the springtime, it was Troy Aikman and Michael Irvin coming off that practice field when the team wasn't even there, but they were out there, and the team respects the leaders of the team when they're the hardest workers.
And that's why I love, Bill, when I heard when we just got Amari Cooper over and he had just come over and they had the off week, and the whole report was, well, Dak and Amari staying behind and get that work in. That stuff means a great deal. That resonates with people. That's what you're talking about. Because the rest of the guys, I'm out of here. Yeah. But when they hear that, they lend more leadership to Dak Prescott.
And that's why, Lindsay, Jerry's about to make both those guys very rich men here in the next year.
There's so much money that needs to be spent this offseason. We'll talk about that later, but the guys set me up perfectly. After this, first they said they didn't need him. Second half of the season, they couldn't go without him. More Amari Cooper talk up next.
Cooper caught it on the bounce off the defender. Cooper walks into the end zone.
This segment is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys.
Well, when you take a look at these numbers, it is no secret that Amari Cooper proved to be the missing piece for this offense after the bye week. You see the numbers, the tangible change this team went through with his presence and production on the field. Welcome back to the year-end special. I've got my two former players, hey, always players, over here. I need to ask you guys, what does it mean for a team, you guys know the best, to get a guy with the work ethic and the business mentality, the blue-collar work ethic of Amari Cooper? What does that mean for the team? Guys are watching that. Yes,
and let me tell you something. I tell people all the time, it's a different world when you are a #1 receiver. And when we tried at the beginning of this year, Nate, to say, we're going to go at it by committee. I mean, listen, I'm saying, you know, I hope it worked, even though I know it won't. but I hope it does. But the reality is there's a pressure that lays on people when you're the #1 receiver. And when Amari Cooper came in, it lifted that pressure off Hearns. It lifted that pressure off Gallup and Beasley. And now they started playing well. They started playing well. It was an incredible get. It was the best thing the Dallas Cowboys could have done, not just for the football team, I think more importantly and directly for that quarterback, Dak Prescott.
You know what amazed me more than anything, Mike, is you can coach players and you can tell players ready to run how to run this route. But when Amari Cooper came in, I'm going to use a basketball term, the spacing got right.
Right.
All of a sudden, when he takes off on a deep post and Beasley comes underneath, it's clear that they got to say, hey, we're either going to do it with a linebacker or we're going to bring a safety. You know the different reads.
Yeah.
He taught Gallup how to finish a route, how to make sure the play isn't over until the whistle is blown. Because he was fighting for the ball. He wasn't strong enough. This kid came on to show every one of them guys, like you did, how to run a route, how to complete a route, and more importantly, how to get in the end zone with the route.
And the best thing I think that you can give a young quarterback like Dak Prescott is a guy like Amari Cooper. He is, I put him up there with A.J. Green. A.J. Green, in this sense, I'm talking about going in and out of cuts. And when I study wide receivers, you study the guys, long stride guys are not very good at going in and out of cuts because cut means I need ground contact.
Right.
I need ground contact. A.J. Green, Amari Cooper, great at transitioning in and out of cuts. So now the quarterback doesn't have to wait till he see you open. He sees you going in the route. He knows you're going to come out open. I can throw right at your back right now without you even turning around because I know you're going to be winning coming out of that cut. He set the bar for that in this NFL, and I thought it made a huge difference with the Dallas Cowboys.
In the growth of Amari Cooper with Dak, man, do you see him becoming a focal point where they may at some games say, hey, we're going to take this extra man and set it on Amari?
Oh, yeah, no doubt. No doubt. That's another thing, Nate, we talked about, Nate, that when people started saying, even when Dez was here, they would say, well, Dez is not a #1 receiver anymore. #1 lays on more than one side.
Right.
Don't get stuck on the one. Don't get caught up because he's not putting up 12 and 13, 1,400 yards. No, he's not. But he is still the focal point by which all defenses will focus on, which gives me an understanding of how you're going to try to defend me so I can better attack you. So now you got Amari Cooper. You know defenses are going to say, hey, let's start watching this guy. We got to watch this guy. He's making plays. We got to give attention to this guy. And like you said, all that other stuff starts opening up now. And the way Michael Gallup came on later in the season, I thought was incredible. I can't wait to see how that tandem hits the field next year, and I think they'll take off.
They use him, I call it 20-20. They use Amari and all these guys 20-20. They use Gallup more in the red zone. But where does Amari Cooper fit in that red zone? I think he could be he's a great route runner. Right. Why wouldn't we use him more in the red zone?
Yeah, and the good thing is, first of all, he can explode and make plays. You saw when you talk about that 20-20, that infield stuff, you saw him take those deep balls. You saw him take short routes and take it the distance. Now, everything does tighten up down in the red zone. Mm-hmm. But because he has those transition abilities, that's when we have to start bringing those those slants and return routes and all of those things and get him more opportunities. And I think that got to get to the place where whenever I line up and see one-on-one, I'm closing the book on reading. I'm going right out here to Amari Cooper, like Troy Aikman did with Michael Irvin.
Yeah, Nate Newton, Michael Irvin, the playmaker.
I wasn't in that group. I'm not that cool. But after this, we'll talk more about how the Cowboys can try to keep up with the rest of the league. It's all about speed. It's all about points. These guys over here are going to tell us how next.
This segment was brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors, official sporting goods retailer of the Dallas Cowboys.
Guys, it is no secret now that the league is geared towards speed and doing it quickly, scoring points, getting into the end zone. The last 4 teams in the tournament were the top scoring score teams in the league. Cowboys, though, 22nd in the league in points, only 21 points per game. They already parted ways with the offensive coordinator this offseason. But what next, guys? What has to happen next? Change has got to come.
Well, you look around the league and, wow, you got to score points in this league, just like Lindsay said. And when you look at the Jason Garrett coached Cowboys, only one other time did they rank lower in points scored. That was in 2015 when they had a myriad of quarterbacks being used that season.
You want to call them quarterbacks. I call them people playing the quarterback position. I call them people playing the quarterback position. I don't even call them quarterbacks we had, but that's what I say about them. Go ahead, Nate. I'm sorry.
You have to find a way to score. And a lot of people say you have to be creative. I kind of disagree. I think your playmakers, you have to find ways for them to be creative. Zeke, Amari, Gallup, those guys are your primary guys. At tight end, you got Blake Jarwin. Find ways for those guys to be creative. And if you can give motion, give different sets where you continue to give your playmakers the ball, so they are the guys that give you the biggest chance to score. And that's what I think you have to do. And with this new guy, Kellen Moore, we don't know much about him, but we know his background. There's a lot of motion, and it's just coming from college. There's a lot of motion, a lot of movement. Let's see what he can do.
Yeah, and, listen, and what we do need to clean up is you score points by giving more opportunities to score points. And there were a lot of 3rd and 1s, 4th and 1s, and we're one of the best running teams in the NFL. But we did not get a lot of those in crucial situations. And in red zones, we were not good in the red zone. You got to get better in red zone. And you would usually think, Nate and Bill, whenever you have a good running team, because the space gets tight down in the red zone, that you'll have a good red zone team. And that just wasn't the case for the Dallas Cowboys. I believe that now that they got the group, they really do have the group in place, that will be much better this year, that they will score more points this year.
You know, you look at the difference really between Todd Gurley and Zeke Elliott. It was rushing touchdowns. Zeke had 6 rushing touchdowns. Gurley had 17 rushing touchdowns in the regular season. When you talk about having the group now, does that mean the coaching group now?
Well, I'm talking about the players. You got the right players, and it's tough to put all that pressure on Zeke until you got Amari, and even now that you got Amari and Zeke, you still have to be some diversity in those short down situations. You look at Tom Brady and the Patriots. They're 3rd and 1s. They're not afraid to throw that ball on 3rd and 1. Everybody knows we want to run the ball on 3rd and 1. So everybody, hey, mom, dad, uncle, nephew, sister, come on down here. They're going to run right here. Zeke coming up the middle. Everybody is right sitting in the middle of that football field. Let's do some of that stuff and not be afraid. Go short motion and run a little rub route and just drop that ball off 3rd and 1. Make people think more, because then they'll hesitate more. And now we can just run that ball right up the middle.
With that split second of hesitation, that's all you need.
That's all you need in this game.
And that's why I would go back to the days when we played. It was Michael Irvin, it was Emmitt Smith, it was Jay Novacek. And then there was the other guys, Kevin Martin and a few other guys that we saw as a change-up. But the primary guys have to be your playmakers. Those are the guys that are going to tote you, and that's what we need to do here.
The other thing they had back in Nate and Mike's day, they had a Tuanay. They had a Nate. They had a Stepnoski.
Yeah.
They had a Big E, Eric Williams on that offensive line. And hopefully, Lindsay, this will be a more healthy offensive line for the Cowboys.
Yes, and you can check in all offseason long with Nate Newton. He'll tell you all about the offensive line. But is this a bright future or what for these linebackers? We'll talk about maybe the league's brightest young duo, Leighton Vander Esch and Jalen Smith, after this.
4th down and goal from the 1. Watson is flushed out, running right. He's running for it to the corner, and he is slung down short. He is caught by Jalen Smith.
was a time roughly a year ago the Cowboys made a first-round pick, and fans, media, everyone pretty much scratching their heads wondering who is Leighton Vander Esch. Well, fast forward a year to now, I think we're all pretty much in agreement that that was a fantastic decision by the Cowboys. Danny Sarek has more. Cowboys linebackers Leighton, Vander, Esch, and Jalen Smith were a dynamic duo this season. All-Pro linebacker Sean Lee missed 9 regular season games due to a reoccurring left hamstring injury. This allowed Vander Esch to step in for Lee on the field and Smith to take over as the leader of the defense, something he's done in the past.
My leadership is very unique, being able to lead in multiple ways, being able to connect with every different type of person on the team. And with Sean not being there, my role is expanded even more.
Smith started every game this season and finished with 121 tackles, the second most on the team, just behind Pro Bowl rookie Leighton Vander Esch. Vander Esch finished with 140 tackles, the most for the Cowboys and third most in the NFL. He says he had no problem stepping up in Lee's absence because he wanted to prove his value as a first-round draft pick. Vander Esch says having Smith, who was like a big brother to him on the field with him, helped him grow immensely during his rookie year.
I'm learning stuff from him every single day at practice and during the games. I mean, we're talking to each other, and it's like if I miss something, he's right there to correct me and get me right on the field. I couldn't give him any more props.
Smith has high praises for Vander Esch as well.
He's improved each and every week. His knowledge of the game, his attention to detail. He's a guy who loves football. I love playing with him.
Thank you so much, Danny. Everyone, even the casual fan, knows these guys are extremely talented. But guys, beyond that, what we already know, what is it that makes these two so special?
You know, I want to let Michael talk about Jalen Smith. He got to spend a morning on Championship Sunday on the NFL Network as Jalen Smith made a guest appearance there. That guy's a ready for prime time player, isn't he?
Yeah, he is, man. And I'm going to tell you something. Both of these guys, we talk about this, Bill, when you talked about, when you're a leader of a football team, you have to be the hardest worker of a football team. I always say, and I say it on air, I measure men in distance traveled. Don't tell me about where you are. Tell me about where you started, and then tell me where you are, and I should measure you accordingly. And both of these men have traveled great distances, and you can respect that distance travel. Leighton coming from 8-man football to being and doing what he's doing now. We all know what Jalen went through at Notre Dame with the injury and fought back from that. Now, when I turn around, if you're a defensive lineman or you're a defensive back, whenever you're pointing towards the most important part of your defense, the middle of your defense, you know you got two men that have traveled great journeys and have worked their way back and have earned where they are. I can work with that, man. And they're good dudes, they're young dudes, they're fast, and they can play together for a long time, Nate.
Ms. Lindsay asked what is the greatest attribute, man? Their speed, their quickness, their ability to recognize. Just think, Mike, Bill, that in a couple of years, when they understand, when they have the knowledge that Sean Lee has and recognition and truly learning how to study film, they'll be outstanding. Now, the issue will become, can you afford to keep those young studs around? Right. Keep them and keep them back there. Yes, sir. Because it does, and it reminded me a lot when we started watching Ken Norton and all of those guys starting to come on, man, and the whole defense starts taking off. And those guys, man, I remember that New Orleans game. We were doing that Thursday night game. I watched Jalen take off and get to that sideline. When he hit Kamara, I looked in there. I was looking at his eyes. He looked up. It was like, this is over. So, this game over. I don't want to play no more. But you mean to tell me after you picked New Orleans, you changed back over to Cowboys? Oh, no. I had got caught. I was doing this thing because for about 4 or 5 weeks straight, whenever I picked against the Cowboys, they won. Listen, I'm a superstitious guy. I am what I am. So it was working great. It worked great that week. We won. I came on after the show, after the show. Fix everything, I was talking. You would fix everything. That's what Reggie Bush was saying. Reggie Bush said, you pick. I said, Reggie, shut up. You can't steal my glory with that story. I don't want to hear that right now. We just beat you guys. It was so incredible, man. But the speed, Nate, when you talk about it, to go sideline to sideline and stop everything, those two are incredible. They're just incredible. I love those young kids.
And they benefit from having Sean Lee teaching them at an early age how to study the opponent.
How to study. Because now, your greatest asset can be your greatest liability. All that great speed, if you don't see it correctly, you can run your butt right in the wrong direction and way out of a play. But now Sean Lee's helping them diagnose plays, and so you can get there now. You can win and keep some of those big guys off you and get to the spot early on. It's an incredible combination.
Early in the season, false steps with the young guy.
Right.
But as the season went on, I'm talking about Vander Esch, false steps. But as the season went on, those steps came sure and sure, and that recognition just started taking over.
And now we see going forward, if Sean Lee wants to play next year, and hopefully, Lindsay, Sean Lee, there'll be a spot for him in this linebacking core next year.
Hopefully, there's a spot for.
Hopefully. Did y'all hear what y'all said? Hopefully, there's a spot for Sean Lee.
There's a spot, whether he wants to be.
Wow, that's a boy.
Wow.
Another hopeful player on this team, though, I think he's walking around with an ink pen in his pocket at all times. DeMarcus Lawrence is ready to sign the check right now, Jerry Jones, wherever you are. We're going to talk about Tank next.
They blitz him, they hit him, they sack him again. Fourth time tonight, and the first for DeMarcus Lawrence.
This segment is brought to you by Ford. Ford is the best in Texas.
Year-end special continues here. This is my 5th season. Thankfully, I've got 2 guys over here who have spent many more seasons around this team with me to tell me about the turnaround of this defense. I've seen it in 5 short years, but how much of that is from the leadership of DeMarcus Lawrence?
Nate, I love DeMarcus Lawrence. I love the way he played, the intensity he plays with. In some senses, he does give me, reminds me of Charles Haley and the way he comes back and goes after the quarterback. And now the way he's rallying guys together. You know, we talked about it all the time. Once we got Haley, he really rallied that defense together. And I think that's what D-Law is trying to do. He comes up with the nicknames, just giving the guys, saying this is our identity. We will hold and adhere to this identity, and I think that's big.
When I spoke with him during the season, I said, man, how did you come up with this Hot Boys? How did you come up with this thing? He said, Nate, it's not a thing. It's a lifestyle. You know, you have to live this on and off the field. You have to be credible in what you're doing. And what I like about him is against the New Orleans Saints, everybody was searching, you know, like they should be happy. He took it a step further. He said, we're not happy just to be here. We're going to win the game. We're going to knock the fire out of them. We're going to take their heart. We're going to take their souls. And you know what? They followed him. And he played big in that game, and the rest of the guys followed him right to the end. And I think he has the ability to become now what we're seeing out of the Khalil Macks in the league, the Aaron Donalds in the league. You know, what he had 10.5 sacks this year. So now what he's starting to see now, hey, people paying attention to you now, buddy. Okay. First, you got everybody saying, hey, who's this young guy? Who's this young guy? But now, they start putting that dot on your name. We got to do something about this guy. And you still have to perform and get up in those double-digit sacks. And I want him to get in high double digits. He got in double digits this year. But I also want to see the guys around him, the Randy Gregory's and all. Take advantage of the attention that he is getting and make more plays. Gregory came in, settled himself down, found himself. You know, Mike, that's a day-to-day struggle for Randy Gregory. My hat's off to you, Randy Gregory. But you know what? I like how he got young guys like the Human Log, Antoine Woods, Reed, all of these guys. He got them going, man. Now, if we can just get Taco Charlton to believe and to buy into what's going on so this defensive line can continue to grow. I back in with Jones, man. Pro Bowler, All-Pro. I mean, and once again, Vander Esch, All-Pro. Guys are coming. You have to have 3 different levels of great players. And we have 3 different levels of players that can be great and play well. Yeah, and I love Chris Richard, how he comes in and he makes a Byron Jones, hey, you know what, you're going to be my guy. You're that corner now that I had in Seattle that did his thing over there. I want you to be that guy and make sure you stop everybody. And now they're having that and they're rallying together. I think the one thing this defense has to do, though,
is get more turnovers.
Oh,
it was 16 in turnovers this year. It's great to stop people. It's great to stop people, but take it to the next level and become. I always say defenses don't win championships, but turnover defenses, that wins championships because it gives the ball back to the offense so they can score points.
You know, it's just amazing to me that when Chris Richard came in, he did what he had to do, and he galvanized that back end, and they played well.
Yeah, they did. Now, and they'll continue to play well. Thank God we still have him here. Because some other team did not take him. Lindsay, we are thankful to have Chris Richard, just like we are thankful to have you.
Oh, you guys are the best. But will you be thankful when free agency is over? We've got a list of guys who may or may not be here. We'll discuss right after these messages.
This segment was brought to you by Ford. Ford is the best in Texas.
We are back here on the year-end special. We already talked about DeMarcus Lawrence. Take a look at the rest of these names on your free agent list. Cole Beasley, Tavon Austin, Jeff Swaim are some of the big ones, but I want to throw it over to my panel. What is the priority here for the way this offense is going in 2019?
They need more weapons for Dak?
Oh, I think we have the weapons. I really do believe we have the weapons. If you can keep Cole Beasley, and I hope we get an opportunity to keep Cole Beasley, and I hope Cole Beasley understands that he's not measuring himself, because I've seen the Twitter rants and all of this stuff, but I hope he's not measuring himself off of what he sees a guy like Julian Edelman does. The Patriots play their game inside out. Tom Brady's going to throw this ball inside out. The Cowboys play it outside in, but with those outside guys, with how Amari Cooper plays and how Michael Gallup has come along, teams are going to have to start shell covering, and now that's one-on-one with Cole Beasley in a lot of room, Nate, to do a lot of work. I hope he just sees this and say, I'm going to stick around one more, and get it done.
You know, I know we're supposed to be talking about just the cold-blooded free agents, man, but it's a lot of guys on offense has to be taken care of. I think Zeke has to be taken care of.
There's no doubt about that.
Dak has to be taken care of, but at what numbers?
Yeah.
You have to be, and I'm not asking these guys to take less than what they deserve. But you have to be careful. If you're trying to build around Dak, you're going to need other weapons, and I hope he's going to be mindful of that, you know, because it's the $25 million versus the $20 million. You may want to do the Tom Brady thing, put a little bit on the back end, try to save yourself, to help yourself, you know, because understand me, if you want to go long term, you may have to give a little bit.
Right, and that way he lasts longer. He don't only get this big contract, he gets another big contract. You know, so be smart about thinking about the long term of it.
Yes.
Because if I'm able to keep guys around, we're able to win more. I can win these next 4 or 5 years through this deal and get another big deal coming along. That's the bottom line in this world now, and that's why I always tell people now. The game is gone from the ability to have dominion over players. It's partnership with players now because you're getting too much money guaranteed now. You can't just cut people anymore. So the players have to take ownership of that partnership and say, this is what I'm willing to do to make sure we're winning and capitulate in that area.
And you see all those endorsement deals Dak already has early in his career. Yeah. You can imagine if the Cowboys continue winning and so forth, it's only going to get larger and larger for them. How about the tight end position? Of course, obviously, lost Jason Witten coming into this year. You got Blake Jarwin coming back. Also, the 4th-round draft pick Dalton Schultz. Jeff Swaim is a free agent.
I think I'm one of the few guys. I know I'm one of the few guys. We don't have to touch the tight end position. Blake Jarwin, Swain, all those guys, I believe in them. I don't believe in them. If your outside receivers and your slot receivers doing what they're supposed to do, these guys will grow and be what you want them to be. I think we should go another spot. These tight ends are tight. That's just Mike, but you catch the ball.
But they're young guys, and right now we're going to need that to be a good young position right now. They came on. They started playing better in the year with Amari Cooper coming, and they took some pressure off those guys. They started making plays. we can't go and try to go out and get a big-time tight end in free agency with all the other issues and all the other people that we got to pay. And it's very important to this team, like you just talked about, the Dak and the Zekes, the DeMarcus Lawrence. So we got good young guys. Let's develop them so we don't have to spend more money.
And Lindsay, of course, they got an early start on this offseason because their first-round draft pick, he was in Orlando last week at the Pro Bowl, Amari Cooper.
Not a bad first-round draft pick. I hope the fans remember that in a few months. I'm actually really sad to say we're wrapping up the show after this. It's been a great year-end special, but we will get final thoughts for you on this Super Bowl weekend. Stay with us. Let's put a bow on the 2018 Dallas Cowboys year-end special. Bill, Mike, Nate, it's been a fantastic show. My favorite of the year so far. So now you've given me all the thoughts, the keys, everything. So moving into the 2019 season, Nate, what's it going to take for this team to get over that hump that fans are so eager for?
Score by any means necessary.
That's it.
That's it.
More points.
Cannot rest on your laurels, okay? You haven't done anything yet compared to what these two guys did in their careers. That's win Super Bowls. It's been 15 years since we had a repeat winner in the NFC East. The Cowboys have to take that next step. This offseason is going to determine what happens next season.
And when we talk about this offseason and taking that next step, that is the time you're spending together now. Nate, I remember when we remember the times we spent in the offseason, we were talking about what we wanted to do during the season, how we wanted to get to a Super Bowl, win a Super Bowl. So then when you get in the midst of a game and it gets tough, because you always get in the midst of a game and it's going to get tough, you start pulling on. Remember what we talked about back in March? Let's get it done right now. That's what those Cowboys have to do.
By any means.
By any means, no resting. Get it done. Hope you guys enjoy the Super Bowl weekend. We'll see you later on in the offseason. Thanks for tuning in.
The 2018 Dallas Cowboys year-end special, presented by Miller Lite, was brought to you by Dr. Pepper, the one you crave. Ford. Ford is the best in Texas. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Cowboys. And by Dallas Cowboys Football Club. For the ultimate Dallas Cowboys experience, tour the Star in Frisco, where the Cowboys work and train. For more information, visit thestarinfrisco.com/tours.